Hello everyone, today I continue telling you the story about the single mother Diệu Hân. I wish you all relaxing moments. While Tom was waiting, every minute felt endlessly long. He sat on the old wooden chair, his eyes occasionally glancing at the door, yearning for those familiar footsteps. In his heart was a mix of restlessness, a feeling both happy and hesitant, because he and Hân were not yet husband and wife. Their relationship lingered somewhere between deep love and the unspoken bonds that hadn't yet become marriage. At last, the sound of the latch softly echoed. Tom immediately looked up, his eyes lighting with joy. Hân stepped inside, her hair still tousled from the wind outside, carrying little Tom fast asleep in her arms. The child nestled close to his mother, breathing evenly, his tiny face as sweet as an angel. Tom's heart suddenly softened. Watching Hân cradle her child, he felt as if he were witnessing something sacred. He stood up, gently taking the bag from Hân's hand to ease her burden, then leaned slightly to look at Tom. The baby stirred faintly, lips pursed like a bud, but continued sleeping peacefully in his mother's warmth. Hân carefully laid Tom down on the bed, pulling a thin blanket over him. She softly brushed her fingers through his silky hair, then sighed in relief. When she turned back, her eyes met Tom's gaze, filled with affection, yet tinged with hesitation. Tom stepped closer, lightly holding Hân's hand. Her hand was a little cold, yet it made him feel strangely warm. "You've worked so hard," he said in a low, deep voice. Hân smiled, her eyes tender but carrying a trace of shyness. "As long as I come home, see you waiting, and see our child safe and sound, all the weariness means nothing." The little room fell into a serene silence. The steady hum of the fan, the gentle breathing of baby Tom, everything blended into an oddly heartwarming scene. Tom gazed at Hân, and within him rose a powerful longing, the longing to call her his wife, to stand by her side as a true husband, protecting and cherishing both mother and child. Yet he held back, for the line between present and future was not one he could cross so easily. Tom gave her hand a gentle squeeze, a silent vow, even if they weren't yet married, he would always be her steadfast support, for her and little Tom, forever. That afternoon, the late sunlight streamed slantwise through the window, bathing the small house in a gentle golden hue. In the yard, banana leaves swayed softly in the breeze, while the distant calls of birds echoed, evoking a sense of calm tinged with wistfulness. Little Tom slept soundly on the bed, lips pursed like a bud, breathing lightly and steadily, like a lullaby setting the backdrop for a rare moment when Hân and Tom could sit down to talk together. Tom chose the wooden chair by the window, sitting slightly sideways, his eyes following Hân's every tender gesture toward her child. After pulling the blanket up for Tom, Hân quietly sat beside him. For a long while, neither spoke, simply listening to the wind in the garden and the clattering of bamboo poles knocking together. In that silence, Hân suddenly felt the need to reveal something she had long kept hidden. She turned to look at Tom, her eyes showing a trace of unease. Her hands twisted nervously together before she finally spoke. "Tom, there's something I've never told you. I think, maybe it's time I said it." Tom looked at her in surprise, his face gentle, eyes intent. Hân drew a deep breath, her voice slow and steady. "In the past, I once thought I might go further with Dan. He treated me kindly, and there were times I believed that, if I stayed with him, I might have a complete family. But as time went by, I realized my heart wasn't truly there. After all the hardships, I came to understand, perhaps, as long as I can live peacefully with my child and raise Tom well, that alone is enough for happiness." Her voice faltered at that point. She turned her gaze toward the garden, where the sunlight was shifting into a warm shade of orange. The confession felt like both a release and the reopening of an old wound. Tom stayed silent, his eyes flickering with emotion. His heart tightened when he heard Dan's name, but the sting quickly eased, giving way to understanding. He knew Han's past was something unerasable, but her courage to share it made him value her even more. He gently reached out, taking her hand. The grip was not too tight, yet it carried a steady strength. His warm voice rose, blending with the evening breeze. "I don't care about your past. What matters is the present, that I see you and Tom here, right in front of me. All I want is to be by your side to care for your child, and if possible, go even further. I don't want you to shoulder everything alone anymore." Han froze for a moment. Her eyes glistened, her lips trembled softly. She felt her heart comforted, as though she finally had a place to lean on after years of carrying the weight alone. In that moment, she unconsciously rested her head lightly on Tana's shoulder. The late afternoon slowly descended, the last orange glow of the day casting its light over the two figures sitting side by side. In the humble little house, amidst the struggles of life, they unexpectedly found a small piece of peace, a mutual understanding that perhaps both had long yearned for. That afternoon, the last rays of sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft golden glow across the floor, painting a scene of uncanny tranquility. Little Tom slept peacefully on the bed, his steady breathing unaware of the emotions quietly stirring between the two adults. Han hesitated for a long time before finally speaking, telling Tom that her heart had once been moved by a man whom he, too, knew. The unexpected words made Tom pause for a moment. He forced a faint smile to mask his unease. The more he listened, the heavier his heart grew, weighed down with unspoken worries. Though Han didn't mention a name, Tom couldn't stop guessing. Faces of familiar men flashed through his mind, perhaps Dan, someone once close to her, or maybe another acquaintance. The thought made his chest ache, yet he refrained from asking. Perhaps he feared the truth would hurt even more. Their conversation gradually faded into silence. Neither spoke further, leaving only a long pause where their eyes met now and then, only to quickly look away. Something seemed to hang suspended between them, fragile, not yet strong enough to be named. As the evening light dimmed, Tom rose to leave. Before stepping out, he gently pulled the thin blanket over Tom, an act of care so natural he hardly realized how accustomed he'd become to worrying for the mother and child. Turning to Han, his voice low, he said, "I'll head back now. Try to rest early, don't overthink." Han walked him to the door. His figure slowly disappeared down the narrow path bathed in the crimson glow of dusk, leaving behind an empty porch, and a deeper emptiness in her heart. She stood still, her hand pressed against her chest, her heart pounding with the words left unsaid, "Ton. I hope one day you'll understand." Meanwhile, Tana's footsteps echoed quietly along the village road, his heart a storm of emotions. He was glad Han had opened up to him, yet troubled by not knowing who that other man was. Questions weighed on him. Is he worthy of her? Can he truly love and protect her and little Tom the way I long to? Or, have I already come too late? As the twilight deepened, Tom clenched his hand with quiet resolve. No matter who she has feelings for, I'll be here, by her side in silence, never letting Han and Tom suffer alone. And so, that evening closed with two hearts, one concealing her feelings, the other lost in quiet doubt, both left aching with words they could not yet bring themselves to say. That afternoon, after Tom had left, the sky began to change. Heavy gray clouds rolled in, blotting out the last traces of sunlight. The first storm winds howled down the narrow alley, making the clumps of bamboo by the roadside sway and creak, their branches slapping against one another with sharp cracks. Han stood on the porch, her hands unconsciously clasped tightly together. Her eyes lifted to the old thatched roof, where the palm leaves had frayed and loosened, some already flapping violently in the wind. One strong downpour with fierce gusts could tear the whole roof away, leaving nothing but a bare, empty shell inside. Her worry deepened as she turned to look at Tom, sleeping soundly on the rickety bamboo bed. His tender little face, lips pursed like a bud, and gentle, rhythmic breaths only strengthened her resolve. No, I can't let my child be exposed to the storm. No matter how hard it is, I must keep this roof standing. She quickly carried Tom to the neighbor's house and asked the old woman next door to watch him. The woman warned her. "Han, you're all alone, climbing up there is dangerous. Wait until tomorrow, we'll call some young men to fix it for you. Don't risk it." But Han only gave a weary smile and shook her head. "There's no time, ma'am. The storm will be here tonight. If I don't fix it now, by tomorrow the roof may already be gone." With that, she hurried back to the yard, dragged out the old bamboo ladder, and leaned it against the wall. The ladder creaked under her weight, worn from years of use, but Han climbed steadily upward. Each gust of wind made it sway, her clothes flapping wildly, her hair whipping across her face. Yet her eyes remained fierce with determination, her steps slow but unyielding. Reaching the roof, she crouched down, hands trembling as she adjusted the layers of leaves. She pulled the misaligned fronds back into place, tying them tightly with rattan cords. The sharp strands cut into her skin, drawing blood, while sweat streamed down her forehead, mixing with the falling bits of dry leaves. The roof rattled under the force of the wind, but she kept working, her mind fixed on a single thought: the roof must hold, so my child can sleep in peace. Down below, a few neighbors passing by couldn't help but feel a pang of pity at the sight. One older man called out loudly, "Han! It's too dangerous. Come down, let us handle it." Han paused briefly, glanced down, and gave a strained, tired smile before calling back against the wind. "It's all right, sir. I'm used to it, just a little more and I'll be done." The slender figure of the woman, small and frail, perched precariously on the thatched roof beneath the storm-darkened sky, looked achingly lonely yet fiercely resilient. Everyone in the village knew how much Han had endured and how hard she had carried on since being left alone to raise Tom. But in that very moment, as the whole house trembled before the coming storm, her strength and the quiet power of a mother shone brighter than ever, a silent, unwavering force, devoted solely to protecting her child and preserving a haven of peace for him. That afternoon, after Tom had gone, the little house returned to its usual quiet. But Han couldn't find peace. Above, the old thatched roof shuddered in the wind, the torn palm leaves from the last rainstorm slapping against one another like a warning. Looking up, she could clearly see the gaps, the loosened patches no longer holding firm as they once did. A single thought flashed in her mind: if the storm comes, this whole roof will be blown away. Where will Tom sleep then? Her worry mounting, Han didn't hesitate further. She pulled out the old bamboo ladder, propped it against the wall, and climbed up to test it. The strong wind made the ladder sway, forcing her hands to grip tight just to stay balanced. Sitting on the roof, she bent down to straighten the fronds and tied them with rattan cords. But as she worked, she realized, tying with cord alone wasn't enough. The roof was too weak. It needed solid bamboo poles pressing it down to withstand the coming storm. So Han climbed down, her heart burning with urgency. She quickly asked the neighbor woman to watch Tom for a while, then grabbed an old machete and set off toward the nearby bamboo grove. The dirt road was rough and uneven, scattered with stones, the wind whipping dust into her face. The sound of rustling bamboo leaves and the gusts of wind seemed to push her forward faster. Reaching the grove, Han chose bamboo of the right size, not too large to carry, but sturdy enough to hold the roof in place. Gripping the machete, she swung with all her strength. Each strike reverberated up her arm, burning her palms raw. When the bamboo finally cracked and fell with a loud snap, the sound echoed through the empty grove, mingling with the howling wind, making her heartbeat race even faster. Dragging 3, then 4 poles to the edge of the forest, Han was already exhausted. Sweat streamed down, soaking her back, her hair plastered against her cheeks. Yet thinking of little Tom at home, she clenched her teeth, hoisted the bundle onto her shoulder, and pushed forward. Her thin frame staggered under the weight, steps faltering, but she refused to stop. Each heavy step on the empty village path seemed to mark her resilience and determination. A passerby, a farmer leading his buffalo home, stopped and called out, "Han! The storm's coming soon, carrying all that is too dangerous. Leave it until tomorrow, we'll come and help, you don't have to do this alone." Han paused, quickly wiped the sweat streaming down her face, and gave a pale, weary smile. "There's no time, sir, the storm will hit tonight. If I don't fix it now, the roof will be gone. I must do this, for Tom." With that, she lowered her head again, trudging on, each step heavy but resolute. The evening light faded into ashen gray, the sky darkening as if ready to collapse at any moment. On the dirt path streaked with the last shadows of dusk, the figure of the small, solitary woman carrying bamboo stood out, fragile, yet unyielding. It was more than the image of a mother protecting her roof, it was a testament to her love and quiet sacrifice for her precious child. By the time Han carried the bundle of bamboo into the yard, the sky had already darkened into a heavy shade of gray. Black clouds swirled above, gathering strength, signaling that the storm could strike at any moment. Strong gusts of wind roared, whipping the palm fronds on the roof with harsh fatch slaps. Several patches of thatch had already come loose, flapping wildly, as if one more fierce blast would tear them away completely. Han's heart tightened. She quickly dropped the bundle of bamboo onto the ground, dividing it into sections and tying them into long beams with rope. Her calloused hands trembled, partly from exhaustion, partly from the wind lashing against her face, but still she refused to stop. One thought consumed her mind: if I don't finish now, tonight Tom will be left at the mercy of the storm. Without resting, she hoisted the first bamboo pole onto her shoulder and slowly climbed the rickety old ladder propped against the wall. Every step felt like a test, the ladder swaying violently under the wind, its wood creaking with strain. Her hair flew across her face, blocking her view, but her eyes shone with unwavering determination. Reaching the roof, Han bent down, her movements careful yet decisive. She pressed the bamboo pole firmly over the fragile thatch and threaded rattan cords through, pulling them tight. Her thin hands shook, bleeding where the cords bit into her skin, but she pressed on. The howling wind shrieked in her ears, shaking the whole roof beneath her as if trying to fling her down. Yet Han only bit her lip harder, fastening each knot with unyielding persistence. Inside the house, baby Tom suddenly woke from the noise and wind. He burst into tears, his wailing filling the small room, tearing at his mother's heart. Han glanced down to see him sitting upright on the bamboo bed, eyes brimming with tears, calling out between sobs, "Mommy! Mommy!" Her heart clenched, but she forced back her own tears, calling out shakily from the roof, "Be good, sweetheart. Mommy's almost done, I'll be right there. Don't cry." Her trembling voice mingled with the storm, but Tom seemed to hear it, his cries weakened, leaving only soft hiccuping sobs. Han bent down again to finish tying the last cords. The storm winds were growing fiercer, lashing at the roof, but now the bamboo beams pinned the thatch firmly in place. Once she was certain everything was secure, she slumped onto the roof, letting out a long, weary breath. Her body was drained, her back drenched with sweat, her hands bloodied, yet on her lips, a faint smile of relief appeared. From the roof, she looked down and saw Tom huddled on the bed, his eyes still red from crying. She smiled gently, her heart swelling with an indescribable peace. Exhausted as she was, she felt happy with a single thought: as long as my child has a roof over his head, as long as he can sleep safely, then all of this is worth it. The wind still held outside, and the first drops of rain pattered against the roof. Yet beneath the bamboo beams now tied fast, the little house stood stronger. And within the mother's heart, a quiet sense of security arose, as if the storm could come crashing down, but it would never sweep away the love she carried for her child. After tying the last cords, Han let out a long sigh. Her whole body was exhausted, her hands bleeding from the rattan cutting into her skin, yet a strange sense of relief welled up inside her. Looking up, she saw the thatched roof now secured tightly under the heavy bamboo poles, each frond pressed firmly in place. The thought, tonight, my child won't be battered by wind or rain, brought a faint, weary smile to her lips. The sky darkened further, the wind held in fierce gusts, and the scent of rain drifted in from afar. Han quickly tidied up, preparing to climb down. Gripping the edge of the old bamboo ladder, she cautiously stepped onto the first rung. But just then, a sudden powerful gust swept through, lifting dust and dry leaves into a blinding swirl. The rickety ladder groaned and shook violently. Han wavered, trying to cling to the roof for balance. Her sweaty, bloodied hand slipped from the cord, leaving her body with nothing to hold on to. Ah! A short, terrified cry escaped her lips. In an instant, Han fell, her body crashing hard onto the ground. Pain seared through her, her arm and side throbbing as though shattered. Her hair came loose, dust clung to her face, yet through the haze of dizziness her eyes instinctively turned toward the bamboo bed. Inside, little Tom jolted awake, screaming in terror. His cries of "Mommy! Mommy!" pierced the air. Hearing her child's voice, Han clenched her teeth and struggled to rise. Every movement sent stabbing pain through her body, but she pressed her hands against the low earthen wall to force herself upright. Staggering, trembling, she finally managed to drag herself back toward Tom. She gathered him into her arms, her frail body clutching him tightly, soothing him through his sobs. "Shoo, don't cry, Mommy's here, everything's okay." The storm outside roared louder, raindrops beginning to pound on the roof she had just secured. Tears welled from Han's eyes, mingling with sweat and dust. The pain was overwhelming, but she whispered into her child's ear, her voice trembling, weak yet resolute. "The roof is strong now, you'll be safe. Mommy's here, I won't leave you." The child, trembling in his mother's arms, kept sobbing, calling Mommy again and again. Han clung to him as if holding on to her very life. But her strength was gone, a wave of dizziness swept over her, and darkness closed in. "Mommy! Mommy!" Tom cried out, shaking her shoulder desperately. Han managed only to tighten her arms around him one last time before collapsing onto the earthen floor, unconscious. Outside, the storm raged in fury, but inside the small thatched house, the frail figure of a mother still held her child close, as if even in fainting, her love and instinct to protect him would never let go.
Hello mọi người, lại là mình đây. Chúc mọi người một ngày mới vui vẻ và có một ngày làm việc thật năng lượng. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay của mình. Những video của mình thường kể về câu chuyện của những người mẹ đơn thân. Hy vọng sẽ mang đến niềm vui cho mọi người mỗi khi xem. Và đặc biệt là nếu mà mọi người thấy yêu thích những video của mình thì nhớ like, share, bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất, để không bỏ lỡ một video nào của kênh mình. Và nhớ để lại cho mình một nhận xét ở dưới phần bình luận. Nếu cảm thấy kênh mình hay và hấp dẫn thì nhớ chia sẻ giúp mình, để kênh của mình có nhiều video hay hơn cho mọi người. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người ở những video sau nha.